There are actually 4 things you actually need to do to preserve the mindset and the skills that are going to get a child ready for life. So the whole program is around those skills that children will need to prepare them for the future. And that's what we all want as parents.
Hey everyone, it's Tamara Thompson with Broadcast Your Authority, and I'm super excited for our next guest who has an inspiring story of how she started her company as well. But I'm actually have Nina Herman, my co-host, introduce her today. Nina?
Yes. We have an amazing opportunity to interview Marnie Forestieri Zettler, and she is the founder of the Young Innovators Academy. She is the founder, she's a startup entrepreneur and education leader with over 20 years experience and success in empowering children as agents of change. She is passionate about purpose-driven leadership, and she fosters a culture that elevates teams and drives lasting impact. She is recognized as a thought leader in early childhood education, and she has built a reputation for high-performing, cross-functioning teams that define industry standards. She's committed to collaboration and innovation, and she is dedicated to shaping a brighter future for children and communities. So 1, I would love to know the backstory, and 2, having watched your TEDx, as well as just understanding that you have to be a clear channel in order to work with children so that you're not projecting your inner child wounds. I want to know, what did you have to do for yourself to be able to represent this and be able to share it across the world?
Wow. I had to unpack a lot of things and unlearn things that I was exposed during my childhood. So I think I started to answer the first question. I started this journey back in 2006. And one of the first things I did, I came from corporate America too, and I have a lot of respect for different industries. So if I was going to work in this industry, I stumbled by accident. Really, I helped a friend that was going through a health issue, and that's how I started. I helped her in her center, run her center for a couple of weeks, and I fell in love with the industry. So that's how I started. And my next goal was to understand really the industry. Like, what is the journey that a teacher takes when they start in early childhood education? So I went to school myself, and I went and I pretty much did everything I had to do, all the classes as a teacher. I worked in a preschool. So from being like an executive, I went to a classroom because I really wanted to understand the brain development, child development. And that was the first part of my journey. And then once I felt that I was ready, I bought a franchise, and I became and it was in 2018 when things were not very well. So I had to step up as an administrator. So that was another level of growth in my career because I had to learn how to be a director and how to manage a business in childcare that is very different from any other business because you have the 2 components. You have a small business, but you also have the education. And a lot of business owners in the space that don't understand the education, then there's a gap because then they have to rely on the educator to tell them, to explain them what are the scores, what is the education part, and how to run a business. And then that was my second phase of growth, being an administrator. And then I found a lot of opportunities in the franchise system that I was, and that became my passion. The first thing is that I discovered that a lot of the curriculums out there for early childhood were outdated. So there was nothing bringing the new research into practice. And the teachers were pretty much doing daycare during the season of our lives, a child's life, where you have 90% of your brain development happens. So we were missing that amazing opportunity. And I wanted to tap into that. I want to change it. And that became a true passion, trying to discover how do I help a child preserve those innate qualities that they have when they're born for the rest of their lives. Because if you think about it, we all go through the K-12 system, and we managed to take away all the curiosity in a child and the skills that are essential for success in life are gone by the time we graduate from high school. Our passions, our inner drive, that all goes. So that was my driving question. How can I make an experience better for children? And that I had to deal with a lot of different fronts. It was first education. So if I wouldn't have that experience in the classroom, I could have never done it. And if I wouldn't have that experience in business, it was very hard too, to combine the two.
Do you think that the entrepreneurial mindset helped, allow for different opportunities and mindset to come in? Because we always have this conversation about, how we were raised in like K through 12 and like these things that were just thrown at us, but we don't use them in everyday life. Like, why did we need geometry and algebra and all these things that I'm like, I just need basic math and no division and percentages for a business. Where there's so many things I'm like, why didn't they teach these things for individuals? Or in high school, why didn't they teach you how to manage your money or get your first apartment? Obviously you're teaching from a young age, but do you think that the entrepreneurial mindset helped create the program that you created basically?
Absolutely. I think I was very passionate about helping a child preserve that innate curiosity and connect with their true purpose. If you think about it, we all play our purpose when we are in childhood. Probably you play maybe. And
I love art. I love basketball. I was a very creative individual, and so but then they forced other things on me that I was like, that doesn't bring my creativity or passion or out in me either. So
absolutely, and you hear a lot. Like for example, probably you love to talk in the microphone. You were playing your
I would
destiny.
sing.
Yes. or share or teach. And we see that a lot with the teachers. Usually they will tell you that they used to they love to teach their siblings or their friends or the community. So that's something that we don't foster enough, that ability to play your destiny and your passion when you're in preschool. That's probably the only time that we have in our lives to stop and connect with what we really are and what we really love, with our true passion. And that has been my journey. How do we help everybody reconnect with that? And it started with me and with our team and with all our people that collaborate with us, because we had forgotten about it. We've forgotten a lot. Like as adults, we're very bad at staying curious.
What would you say to parents so that they don't stifle the curiosity of their children?
So the first thing we have to change is we need to bring that awareness. That's what the podcast Raising Innovators is going to be about, because we need to bring that awareness of the things that we have to unlearn that are not going to help children be successful in the future. And I became a big promoter of just bringing at the forefront of the conversation the huge need that we have to stop teaching kids the way we have. If by 2030, 85% of the careers that we have today are not going to exist. That means that the only thing and the biggest gift that we can give a child is to help them think like an entrepreneur, like an innovator, and connect with a passion, because only your passions are going to get you that grit and your resilience. Only when you're super interested about solving one problem. And interesting enough, I started my career in the 2010s, writing curriculum for STEM. I was pushing the STEM movement, and we all have to push until my kids graduated from college. And they both went. I have 100% success sending both kids to Ivy League schools, just to realize that none of my children wanted to be in a STEM career. They didn't like it. So I changed my mind and I said, wow, it's not about teaching them a career, because they were not passionate about it. They were hiding in the Kumon class because they didn't like math. And like you said, you probably didn't like a lot of the things that you learn in school, but we had to learn them because they were prerequisites and we had to graduate. So, but I let them, so I changed my mind and I started saying, you know what, this is not what children need, not push them. You have to be an engineer, because you want them to be happy. That's what all parents want. We all want our kids to be happy. And I changed my mindset about that. And I started telling them, so what is it that you're very passionate about? And both of them figured it out based on the passions. And I brought this concept back to the curriculum framework with the group of professors and teachers that we work with. And we started seeing, there are actually 4 things you actually need to do to preserve the mindset and the skills that are going to get a child ready for life.
How do you go about, so let's say, preschool, so they're at a fairly young age. Like, I know that I don't remember a lot of things before preschool, right? There was definitely scenarios in preschool that I remember. A lot of the things that I remember was from traumatic experiences. But, I do remember certain things. How do you go about, so asking someone at that age, as their brain's developing as well, what they're passionate about? Because if they're passionate about something specific at that age, it may evolve over the years. Of course, as an adult, I know I have a creative mind. And so I always know that certain things went into that, but now I'm also very interested in business and finance and investing and things like that. But that's something that I wouldn't have learned as a small child. So how do you kind of incorporate that into your program, or evaluating them to say, this is what they're stating right now, and how can it evolve with them over the years?
So one of the common practices in early childhood settings is that everybody comes with 8 types of intelligence. Mm-hmm. So either you're an artist, or you're a kinesthetic learner, mm-hmm. or you are a spatial thinker, something like that. So we all have a different way where we actually understand a new concept. And you will always see that children are drawn to learning centers, and usually to the same learning center. Usually a kid, you will see them when they're very little, and they always go to the dramatic play because that's what they like to do. So you start seeing that trait and the creativity. You were always the creative. You just evolved mm-hmm. based on your interest and your passion that you found in building your business. You're going to do whatever you need to learn because you're passionate about it. If you have to learn a new thing that is probably out of your comfort zone, you will do it graciously because you are so passionate about solving one problem for somebody else, like you are doing for entrepreneurs in broadcasting their authority. So you're passionate about it, and you will do whatever you need to do to pursue that passion. And that's how we start connecting with them. We introduce the concept in different ways. If we see that a child is artistic and likes music, then we present the concept via music. Or if they like to move, then we'll make them move around. And by developing that relationship and understanding those real interests and allowing them to develop their passions, and even if they forget about it or they pursue another passion, that is completely fine. But it's just understanding and building that relationship with a child.
How do you manage a classroom where you have 8 different learning centers? Is that correct? And everybody's under a different one. How do you manage that?
It's actually super interesting. That's why I respect so much the career of early childhood educators. And that's something that there's a lot of work, and you really need to be passionate about this career. And unfortunately, it's disappearing. It's disappearing from universities, but a master teacher would know how to control a classroom with very good classroom management techniques. She would know how to distribute the children in different centers, have activities in the centers to help them pursue their interests and just expand on that. And that's why we try to keep the interest. And sometimes children don't like one of the domains. You see, maybe a child just likes to read and they don't like math, or they don't like this. But there are always ways to introducing that, and a good early childhood educator will know how to do that.
So I have a question about children who have multi-potentials. I actually directed a preschool for gifted children, and we also introduced neurodivergent and autistic children who were children of professors at a major university when I was in college. So I have a lot of skill in this area, and I'm really loving the innovator part, and I'm loving what you're calling this, and I love what you're saying. And I'm curious about the multi-potentialite child who will go to more than one center because they don't have one passion. They have 4, 5, or 6 passions. And so I would love you to speak to How do you work with these neurodivergent kids that have so much extra creativity and they're good at all of them?
And that is great because one of the ways that you incorporate and work with gifted children is by allowing them to explore everything. Children, a good teacher knows how to meet the students where they are and to introduce different experiences so that they don't get bored. Usually, like I asked my mother the other day, like, how would she define me when I was young? And without hesitation, she said, "Oh, you were trouble." I mean, I think my husband would agree with that. Yes, probably I'm trouble. But actually, I was probably one of those children. You needed to keep me entertained or you would lose my interest. So those kids are very interesting to build a lesson plan, an individualized lesson plan, because you can start just by creating, experiences for them and that are open-ended, and you would just have to let them play it out and they will figure it out. And one of the things that we do a lot in our program is that we get everybody involved. So those kids are great leaders because then you can actually ask them if they could be a leader in a group and lead an investigation, and they would always surprise you.
See, now I want to come over there because I'm like, I feel like I'm going to bring my inner child back over there. I'm going to try this and this.
So from a visual perspective, what do these classrooms look like? Do you have like a little sand pit? I'm just trying to envision what your classrooms look like.
So our classrooms, and this is something that we're launching and we're sharing with other providers, is the setup in a classroom setting is the learning centers. But a Young Innovators classroom has some areas that are very distinctive. We support what we call the 4 pillars of our curriculum. And these are the life skills that children need to learn for the rest of their life. And they had nothing to do with academics. They have to do with life skills, which is what children don't have when they're graduating. And the 4 pillars are, the first one, we made it really simple for everybody to practice. Our core values in the company are all around these 4 pillars. Is the head for growth and how you talk to yourself, growth mindset. The heart for emotional intelligence, because amazingly, 36% of people in the world have emotional intelligence. So that means that we have a lot of opportunity.
A lot of room to grow that.
In a Young Innovators class, you will see corners and areas where the children can actually self-regulate and also practice some of the techniques for self-regulation and self-awareness. So they can do a little meditation. We show them how to do a little yoga. If they are not and we start the day by emotionally checking how everybody's doing, making a commitment to the growth mindset principles. Everybody's going to talk like this. We can do that. We're going to fail. The 3rd pillar is the hands. So is making, and that teaches them innovation and entrepreneurship. So they always know that they're going to fail. That is fine. And the other one is giving them a voice. That's the 4th pillar. So we teach them how to follow a purpose and how to be value driven. A lot of the kids today exiting think that, being a TikToker or whatever, that's great. But not everybody's going to make it there. You have to have content to share, but you have to be also very grounded on very strong principles and values. And to unpack all that, the most important thing is working with the teachers so that they heal their inner child. I actually heal my inner child first before, and then my team and my right hands is all about you. First. And when you feel it, you cannot model or teach something that you have forgotten. So we always start with ourselves.
So let's hear about your podcast. I want to hear about all this because I'm very excited. I work with neurodivergent adults and families. And what you're talking about is what I'm helping people heal much later in life because they didn't get it. So you're making me very excited. It means I'm going to maybe get to retire sometime, but I don't know. But I want to hear all about your podcast.
Our podcast was my husband's idea, right? So I give him all the credit because he was like, there's a message there and we have to share what's happening, the magic that's happening inside our schools. The kids talking. If you go to our YouTube channel, with 4-5 years saying, I can fail. That's okay. I mean, we're giving them the biggest gift. So he said, we have to talk about this, and we have to share that message to parents so they can also heal themselves, recognize those hurtful patterns. Maybe they're passing to the next generation, because we inherit a lot of things from our parents, probably, that we have to deal with right now, and a lot of preconceptions. So how about we share it in a podcast? And then we started the first ones. And my dear friend Sarah Sprinkler jumped on board to do the first episodes, and it was hilarious because it brought like 2 different generations, giving advice to the next generation of parents on what you can do to avoid this repeating the pattern. Just break the pattern for the next generation, based on research and based on experience.
And can you share a little bit of the name of the podcast? Obviously, when this episode airs, it will be live. It's coming out shortly here coming next week in real time.
Yes.
So it's Raising Innovators, correct?
Raising Innovators. And
I love that name.
It's going to encompass the 4 pillars that we talked about. And all the topics are questions that young parents have raising small kids to elementary school, and things that they can do. So we just hope to bring the change that the world urgently needs to get these children ready for the future of work.
Do you have any challenges with your parents and what they're doing with their children?
We have, so the Young Innovators Academies are in very family-oriented communities. So the 4 locations that we have, but now we are opening our division to help other providers bring this philosophy into their centers and their communities, and internationally too. That was also the like one of the missions that's
for
of
the podcast. You can
right?
reach people globally.
Reach more. So if they're interested about like taking this into their communities and understanding, incorporating, then they can do that. So that they will face many different challenges based on their culture, but we have a very clear picture and vision of what the skills are that children need to have in the future. I mean, there's a lot of research about it. So the whole program is around those skills that children will need to prepare them for the future. And that's what we all want as parents.
Yeah. I think that the parents that you'll also be attracting into these programs also are open to being different and change and innovation on that side.
They have the same core values.
They have the same core values as you. I'm assuming that these parents that are coming in, of course, there'll be challenges on that, but you're building something that's much bigger.
It's a legacy.
Yeah,
it's really inspiring to see that, because a lot of kids do deal with like obstacles, and when they're encountering these obstacles, how do they overcome it? Do they give up? There's a lot of issues with suicide in our schools. These kids that don't see a way out of things, and so that's their way out. And so you're over here teaching these kids, hey, you can fail 1,000, a bazillion times, and it is okay. We will make it out of this together. I mean, the biggest thing is learning problem solving, entrepreneurship. We know when COVID happened, how did we resolve that? So for us, we had a video production agency. So we're filming in studios and all of that. And then during COVID, we shifted to virtual. Like our clients were sending in virtual content from Zoom, from Riverside, from other areas. So it's like, how do you problem solve when you're dealing with the issues? Just like the Everbowl founder we interviewed, he created ghost kitchens because he had to release 500 employees. So I am so proud of you and what you're creating. It's super inspiring. It's what all these kids need. And we're excited to help you get your podcast out there and you can reach millions of people. So we're excited.
Yeah. I mean, you're creating an entire impact on the next generation. And that's what we're super excited and grateful for the opportunity to help you share that message through your podcast.
Thank you so much.
I could talk about this all day. But at this point, I would love for you to share with our audience a little bit more about how they can connect with you. Obviously, we're going to encourage them to listen to the show, and anything else that you're excited about. Where can they find you on social media?
Well, on social media, you can find us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Young Innovators Academy. I'm also an author, so in the author page, marnieforestieri.com. So the best way might be LinkedIn or Instagram messaging, but we're excited to help expand this mission and change the world for the future generation together.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Marnie, so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you flying in. And those of you that are watching this episode, definitely check out Raising Innovators and everything else that they have going on. Connect with her. She's super passionate and impactful, and I'm super grateful for her husband, Jay, who inspired her to also start this show. And those of you that are watching our show, be sure to subscribe to Broadcast Your Authority on YouTube. Leave us a review on Spotify or Apple, and we'll see you in the next episode.